Hello, everybody. Welcome to the American Recorder Society's Play the Recorder Day festivities for the year 2022. My name is Phil Holler, and I serve on the Board of Directors for the ARS. Each year for Play the Recorder Month, the American Recorder Society commissions a brand new work for recorders. Traditionally, groups around the country would get together on Play the Recorder Day and perform this piece of music in celebration of the instrument that we all enjoy so much. Last year, the pandemic rendered playing together unsafe, so we decided to get together and put together a virtual celebration instead. And that virtual program worked out so well that we decided to do it again this year. Hopefully, when your groups are able to safely meet live again, you'll continue to perform this piece live, but in the meantime, we hope you'll enjoy this presentation as well. One of the highlights of the presentation was the ability to meet the composer of the Play the Recorder Month piece. And this year, the piece, Fanfare Returning, was composed by Eric Pearson. And we are delighted to have Eric here with us today for an interview. And he'll be interviewed by the president of the ARS Board of Directors, David Podeski. David and Eric, take it away.
Greetings to our American Recorder Society members, and welcome to the interview with Eric Pearson, composer of the 2022 Play the Recorder Month piece. I'm David Podesky, president of the American Recorder Society, and with me, of course, is Eric, musician and composer, banjo and guitar player. So I set one of my guitars out as decor. So I really enjoyed playing Fanfare, and my chapter played it in January, and then we in person, and we played it again yesterday on Zoom because we had an ice storm here, so we didn't get together. And we're gonna play it some more in the next time we get together. So we really liked the piece, and they gave me some questions to ask you today.
Excellent, excellent.
We very much like the trumpetness of it.
Yeah, yeah. It was definitely inspired by that. You know, in figuring out how to. This might answer one of your questions coming up, but in kind of thinking about how to, what to write, I was on a whole other train of thought with what I should do. And then I started listening to these like Renaissance fanfares that are all, of course, trumpets and drums and like sort of almost like single chords, like da, 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 kind of like big arpeggios of a single chord going up and with a certain rhythm, like a boom, ba boom, boom, ba boom, this kind of things. And I forget which one in particular I gravitated towards, but I thought that was a neat form that, so then I started looking through my my stack of recorder music that I had to see if there was any fanfares, and I didn't. I mean, there probably are, but I didn't really find any in my little weird stack. So I thought that'd be interesting. It seems like a structural kind of thing. Like you could use that for a concert, and get everybody in,
right,
and stuff, and that it would sound good on recorders.
So one of the questions that our a Dallas chapter member asked was, did you write it on another instrument? Do you work things out on guitar or?
No, this, for this piece, I often just sort of work with the notes, and then sometimes if I play the instrument, I'll play around on it. But I often work with sort of the sound of it rather than like have it be a sort of based on a technical thing that's fun to play or something.
Right.
And actually, I wanted to do something different for this. I wanted to do something that was actually fun to play. So for this one, I kind of did play around. I got out the recorders and just improvised and when I had the ideas first, and then I kind of played around on the instruments to find things that felt fun to play, and then I went from there, and I kind of went back sort of onto the page, I guess.
So let's back up a step and talk about your background in music. I think I read in the Play the Recorder with the piece that you went to Oberlin. And I know I listened to your album Water yesterday.
Oh, you did?
I did.
Nice.
I enjoyed it very much. So
nice.
What's your background like?
Yeah. So I always had several. I always use the word dilettante, but a friend of mine had a better term for it. I never. Some people have very focused musical upbringings, like they only play the piano and they practice 8 hours a day and they get really great at that and they can do everything. And I've never been that person. I sort of did everything that was available. After I discovered that I really liked music back in, elementary school, I guess, probably here, shout out to elementary school music programs, because, fourth grade ran around and and they, first I wanted to play the saxophone, and then my mom didn't want me to play the saxophone because she thought it'd be loud around the house or something. So she said, "Why don't you play the flute? It's got the same fingerings." And I said, "Okay, I'll try the flute." And I was one of the few ones of my friends who could actually get a tone out of the flute. And I was and I realized that, oh, I can do this. Like, that sort of came quickly, and we found a great teacher. It was actually, some people might know, Gary Shocker is a well-known flute player. It was his father was taught music in my little town of Easton, Pennsylvania, and so he got me inspired on playing the flute. And so I just, I dove right in. I loved it, and then it was kind of omnivorous a little bit. Like, I played some guitar. When I got to high school, we had a fantastic choir teacher who ran 5 different choirs and 3 levels of music theory and sight singing and stuff. It was his name's Ed Millicitz, and unfortunately he just passed a few weeks ago. But yeah, he was an incredible inspiration, and so I just kind of did everything that was available. I played in rock bands. I sang in choirs. I played the flute and piano and guitar, and just kind of everything. And then when I got to Oberlin, to the conservatory there, I was a composition major at Oberlin. And then when I got there, there was other things like South Indian music. There were some different teachers of South Indian music there that I took a few lessons with here and there. And that's where I learned about the banjo. So I got into playing banjo. And so I've just always been sort of maybe not omnivorous, but
yeah, eclectic.
Spread out.
So what drew you to write for the recorder? I noticed on our website that you have a couple of other pieces there.
Yeah.
And then, what are they? Creeping Dawn, Mountain and Shadow, Leaves in the River, Autumn.
Yeah. So Creeping Dawn was actually the result of Washington Recorder Society. I used to subscribe to I think it was a publication from one of the American Music Center or something, and they would have composition contests listed. And so I saw one for recorder orchestra. The Washington Recorder Orchestra had a contest for a 24-piece recorder orchestra, and I was like, that sounds neat. I should do that. And when I was young, I always loved the sound of recorder music because when I was young, I used to go to take art lessons at this place. My parents live in Cape Cod, and there was an art center there. And I used to take art classes there in the summers as a kid. And upstairs was a room, and there was a group of people who used to gather and play recorder music, like quartets and quintets and stuff like that. And I just loved the sound of it coming down while we were sitting there doing our art projects. And so that, I just always had that in my mind, and that sound. And so when the Washington Society contest came up, I said, oh, well, I want to write something for that. And so that Creeping Dawn came out of that. And then it's, so I didn't get to hear the performance that they did. But Glenn Shannon, I think, was he the first one he may have been the first one who heard about it and then did it a few years later. There was also a group on the peninsula down here. I can't remember what it's called at the moment, but they so there's a couple of performances in the Bay Area that happened that I got to hear. So
I think Barbary Coast is one of the.
yeah, Barbary Coast, and there was one in the peninsula that somebody out there might know.
So, do you have a preference as a composer? Do you like to write for a particular instrument, or do you like to write solo versus larger works?
I think I like small chamber music the best. I think some of my favorite things that I've written have been like 3 and 4 voices, maybe up to like maybe more like 5, 6, 7, things like that. But yeah, the bigger orchestra stuff is hard, like. There's a lot of stuff to think about, a lot of voices to think of it, a lot of, just a lot to think about. And so I like the interaction that a smaller chamber group has. You have it's easy to pass things around between voices and to really follow it as a listener. So I kind of had the most fun writing things for smaller chamber.
So does writing for the recorder present any unique challenges?
Good question.
Maybe compared to, you probably write a lot for banjo and guitar.
I wish I could say I did. That's the funny thing, is that I actually haven't written that much for the instruments that I play the most. Like I haven't written, aside from that, well, I can talk about water in a sec, but yeah, I'm only now writing for flute and guitar for like more classical music. It's I don't really know why, but that's been what it is. So yeah, as far as the recorder goes, I think the challenges really are just, some notes are better than others, I guess. Some notes are easier to get than others. And so kind of, I don't want to shy away from those notes, but I also realize, like, in listening to different performances that I've heard and talking to people who really play, I realize that some notes are just better than others. Like some notes really speak well, and so if you can write around those notes, those registers and ranges and stuff, then you can really pull out the vibrancy of the ensemble and of the instruments, and then. Of course, good players can make anything sound good. So,
right,
yeah.
Right. So, as a guitar player, I got to ask you this question: do you think in terms of chord progressions? Composing.
Yes, I often do. That's, and when I write, so with this piece, with the fanfare, I thought of that Renaissance. Fanfare thing. But usually when you listen to those, they're 1 chord, 2 chords, like maybe one and, like A minor and E7 or something like that. That, but I kind of wanted to take that idea and, twist it around and look at it sort of like a prism. So you could, each little group of the theme can be transposed to a different sonority, to a different so that it is more like a chord progression. And so, like, when I'm writing classical music, modern music or whatever, I often don't think so much in standard chord progressions, what I'll think of is sort of in structures and in sounds that are good together, basically. I mean, you know, a lot of them are vaguely tonal. Like this is clearly a pretty tonal piece of music, you know, by design, but not necessarily following the rules of chord progressions that we, you know, have created over the last 400 years or whatever.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So there's some good crunchy spots in fanfare.
Uh-huh.
Really close harmonies. I think measure 12 has the bass playing a G with the tenor playing a low F sharp.
Yeah. I love that. That is I think some people might shy away from that in recorder writing. Like with strings or something, you can massage those kind of things. But with recorders, it's very stark, those dissonances, and I kind of like it. So
Yeah, I do too. I do too. Our Dallas chapter, we were commenting that the dissonances just keep the piece moving forward.
Oh, that's a great, yeah. Yes, that's kind of what I want is this, you know, without the traditional like sense of harmonic motion, you know, 1 2 5 1, that type of thing. You have to create your own kind of motion in these things, and so dissonance and consonance. Yeah, that's sort of what I like to play with, is to try and create life and energy with the dissonance. And
so do you when you get a commission, do you generally have free reign? Kind of a two-part question. And where do you start? You've talked a little bit about this already, but do you start with a melodic idea? And
yes, sometimes it really depends on. So, like with the first part of the question, in terms of, it really depends on what it is. Sometimes there's kind of an assignment, you know, like a piece that got a bunch of performances a few years ago was a thing I wrote for clarinet, flute, and piano trio in San Francisco called the Bernal Hill Players, and it was a piece that they were doing. They did commission some pieces, sort of, they called it in and about the city, and what it was music that was supposed to be about the place that you were. And so they did some San Francisco composers, and they did some Mexico City composers. And it was neat to see what everybody did. My piece was called Inner Postcards from San Francisco. And each it was 3 movements, and each one was a scenario. One was called like Scherzo, running for the number 33 bus. And it was the running walking race with the number 33 bus. So there are little sort of personal sort of vignettes from living in San Francisco, and then music inspired by that. So there was an assignment, but I had total free reign to do whatever I wanted.
Yeah. What's the most unusual combination of instruments that you've written for?
That's a good question.
I set out one time. I have no background in composition. I studied some theory with a jazz player a little bit, so I play around. But I tried to write a piece for alto recorder and ukulele, because I have a friend that plays ukulele.
Oh, that's a good combination.
It didn't turn out very well.
Yeah, well, it's the ranges are interesting. You know how they intersect. It could be a cool combination.
Yeah.
Let's see. I was trying to think about that. I think every ensemble has its possibilities. I've always sort of tried to look for, I think with the idea that there's 50 million string quartets out there written by composers who are much better than me. I've always sort of looked for, opportunities to write for ensembles that were a little less standard. So I have some things for viola and clarinet. Like I had some people at school who wanted to do something, and there's not hardly any music written for viola and clarinet. So I wrote them a piece, and I did a piece recently. I just remembered this morning for the 100th anniversary of the Rite of Spring. To people at the Community Music Center where I teach, percussionist and harpsichordist wanted to do a piece. And so I took sort of bits and pieces of the Rite of Spring, and I sort of created a piece for harpsichord and percussion.
Is there a recording of that one? The Rite of Spring is one of my favorite.
Oh, yeah, I can, I'll send it to you. I think I do have one.
Great.
And then
I was listening to Ink and something. Ink
and Tapestry.
Yeah, that's a haunting piece.
Yeah, there's another on my Bandcamp page. There's a new group of actually Inner Postcards from San Francisco is on there, in a record called Things So High and Strange, and the piece called Things So High and Strange is for 3 electric guitars, string trio, and bass drums and cymbals and bowed cymbals. So that was a soundtrack to a dance piece many years ago. But
yeah, excellent. So, anything else you'd want our members to know about you or about the piece, or?
Well, I guess I should we haven't really talked about the other recorder music that I have. I got lucky enough to be a part of the members library back in 2003 with one of these 3 pieces for SATB recorder that I wrote. This one's called Leaves in the River, but the whole group has 2 other pieces called Old Music Box and Reflected Light on Buildings.
And so I noticed that the other 2 pieces weren't there. Where can a recorder player get those?
That's a good question. I have them, and so I guess you could write to me. But maybe we can talk about, and maybe we can, if you're interested, we can make them available.
Okay, we should follow up on that. Yeah. Maybe we direct people to your website to learn more about
your
work.
Sure. ericpearson.net is my website. It's erikpearson.net, not .com. And it's not the greatest website, but I did sort of update it for this occasion so that if anybody wanted to look at it, there's some links to a Bandcamp page that I have where you can listen to some of this music, and a list of compositions in there and some recordings that I've been on and stuff like that, other things that I've done. So
if you Google just Eric Pearson, even with the K, you get a lot of Eric Pearsons, but if you Google Eric Pearson musician, you're the first one that comes up.
Oh, that's good. That's what I'm going for.
All right.
My algorithm is working really well.
We've been talking to Eric Pearson, composer of the Play the Recorder Month piece for 2022. Thank Eric for his time this morning. Thank you. Have
David.
fun playing his piece, Fanfare.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear it. And if anybody out there has any questions or comments or suggestions, I'd love to know that you are playing it. And also a little shout out to one way that if you put it on back in the days that to come when we were able to do what do you call them, concerts again. I've forgotten.
What do you call them? Yeah,
when you can do concerts again. If you ever decide to program this piece, let me know and send me a program.
Cool. We will do it. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Bye, Eric.
Bye.
Thank you, David and Eric. It's so nice to get a glimpse into the mind of the composer of the music that we play. So, Eric, we appreciate you giving us that opportunity. And we'll be hearing from Eric a little bit more in a few minutes, but for now, I'm going to turn the program over to another member of the ARS Board of Directors, Greta Haag-Hershu. Greta, take it away.
Hello, everybody. Welcome, and thank you, everybody, for being here, for joining us for this lovely event today. It's an exciting time for the world in some ways and for us personally, but playing the recorder makes most of us very happy, and it kind of helps to soothe whatever extraneous things are going on. Right, so there are a couple of questions that have come up. Let's start with one from Sandra. She wants to know where your album Water can be found.
Oh, right. In the interview part, I didn't mention my Bandcamp page is pretty much the go-to place to hear it. It's on Bandcamp, and it's just Eric Pearson, I think, Eric Pearson Music. If you look up that, I've got a few things on there. Water is actually like a collection of like sort of singer-songwriter things. It's guitar songs, and it's a record I made back in 1996, I think it came out. And then there's the Ink and Tapestry that David mentioned is sort of a double album of two. The first album is all sort of classical chamber music. It's got a piece by the Cleveland. Played by the biggest thing is the Cleveland Chamber Symphony. Recorded the first piece called "Banishing the Demons," and there's a lot of that's the ink part. And then the tapestry is a little bit of a pun. It's all sort of tape music that I did for dance performances. It's sort of collages and, some original stuff and some kind of blends, mixes of, pre-recorded music that I did for various dance pieces. And then let's see, there's some there's a lot to listen to there. There's about 5 different things on there.
Well, you have been very active as a composer. Do you have any special projects that you're working on right now?
I actually mentioned in the interview that I was writing some music for flute and guitar, and that was actually before I talked to some colleagues at the Community Music Center who have a flute and guitar duet who want to do something together. So we've been talking about what that's going to look like, and so I'm excited. I have a bunch of ideas. And let's see. The first thing that I started writing sort of when I was sketching out some stuff that became Fanfare Returning, the piece for today is I started on a completely different tack. I wanted to write some like canons, and I sort of went back over a bunch of counterpoint stuff and trying to think how I could use those ideas. I was playing the Telemann canonic sonatas, and I was just sort of fascinated by that, and then looking up and I discovered these pieces by I can't remember who they are. Not Jess Waldo, but they're basically these 10-part canons. So they're like 10 measures long, and you can have as many and each measure goes with each other measure, so you can have as many players as you want, up to 10 players before it starts repeating itself. And I thought, wow, what a fantastic idea. So I started trying to write some of those as an idea for this this assignment here. And so I haven't given up on those. I thought the fanfare idea was sort of a better idea for this, but I have some sketches that I need to keep working on for possibly recorder orchestra.
That would be great.
Just putting that out there.
We would really look forward to that.
Yeah.
Your compositions are fresh and they're so interesting. You mentioned, I think, when you were talking about Leaves in the River, which was published for the American Recorder Society Members Library Edition, you had other pieces along with it called. You want to talk about those pieces too?
Sure.
They're available, so
yeah,
maybe we can make them available to everybody.
It was a group of 3 pieces. One, The Leaves in the River, was one of them, and then there was one called Old Music Box, and then another one called Reflected Light on Buildings. And there we can make them available. I sent a copy to Greta, so if you contact her or if you contact me directly, my email is ericpearsonmusic at gmail.com. And
I'm going to put that in the chat right now.
Yeah, we can put that in the chat. And it's ERIKPEARSON. You can also, I think my email is also on my website, ericpearson.net. So you can find it there. You can get it through the Bandcamp too.
Right.
Or Facebook. There's, I'm out there. Maybe not the first one that comes up, but you can find me.
The thing that stands out in my mind about Leaves in the River is the tenor part that exercises our low E flat, which makes it a very gentle and subtle note, really. And I think that the affect in that piece of that note being so gentle is actually quite wonderful. It's almost a muted sound because in relationship to what else is going on. So the textures are quite lovely in it.
I'm amazed. I just want to thank Emily for her amazing performance of Fanfare, and it's been such a different experience to hear somebody actually play the music rather than how it exists in my head or how it comes back from the little clinky notes on the notation programs and stuff, the bad samples and so it's hearing actual people play the actual music, and that same with Creeping Dawn, like to actually hear. I wrote that, of course, before any of these big, before finale. I guess finale maybe existed, but I wrote it by hand in the old way. So there it is.
Can you see what I'm holding right now? This is my 24-part score to Creeping Dawn. It's immense. I've had the pleasure of conducting it twice, once for ARRO, the American Recorder Society of the West, under Richard Geisler, and again with Barbary Coast Recorder Orchestra. And as you can see, I'm keeping it in good condition so I can use it again sometime because it's a really cool piece. We did have
Glenn Shannon typeset it. So
thank you, Glenn.
The original was all handwritten.
So there was another question from Karen and Wes. They asked, may we all have a recording of Eric's harpsichord, Rite of Spring? Oh,
sure. Yeah. Yes, I can send that to you if you send me an email. It's, I think as far as that one goes, it's all actually quotes. The title is Sacrificial Collage. And what it is, it's all, I didn't write any of the music itself. I took pieces from Stravinsky, and I hope that the title exempts me from lawsuits.
Let's see.
But
What year was The Rite of Spring composed in?
no, it was over 100 years old now,
All
so
right, so I
I
think you're
think
good.
I'm okay.
You're good. Well, that's wonderful. If anyone else has more questions or comments that they would like to share, we would love to see them, hear them. So put them in the Q&A right now while I queue up the next little bit. Maybe I'll just introduce that because I don't see any more questions at this moment. Although, thank you for answering everything so wonderfully. So pleased to have you here and representing your music and sharing your wonderful, fresh ideas. I love all of that.
Thank you so much. It's really an honor to be part of this, and you know, by all means, anybody who's interested, feel free to reach out. And as I said in the thing before, it's important if you do a performance to send me the program, because then I can get some performing rights royalties, because
That's great.
what happens is how it works, just so that people know, is that like whatever concert hall or church or whatever, everybody has to pay a little bit every year to BMI and ASCAP, and that money usually goes to recorded music rights. But if you have a concert series, it's there's not that many concerts, and there's some money that goes to the actual living composers that get performed. So what you need is, the key to all of that is a concert program. So if you're going to perform it, it would be fantastic for you to contact me, and I'll send you my address and you can mail me a program.
That's very generous of you. Thank you. We really appreciate that. We do have one more question here from Liz. She says, are there any pieces of music which make you think, dang, I wish I'd written that?
That's great. So many. I think every time I listen to music, I discover something. It doesn't really matter what it is. I think as I've gotten older, I've gotten more. I used to have an attitude about stuff, but now I just am sort of amazed at all the talent and expertise. Like, I could play. I spent a lot of the pandemic learning some Baroque flute, and so going back to the Telemann unaccompanied sonata, or what is it, the suites, or the sonata, Bach partita in A minor, all that kind of stuff. And I'm just like, playing that music, I just am in awe of how incredible it is. And everything from that to, I don't know, Taylor Swift or whatever. I'm amazed at how the effort and talent and skill that goes into all sorts of music. So,
Well, your love of all kinds of music is what makes you a good composer, too. It's okay to borrow from others, right?
thank you.
Get
Yes,
inspired and all that. There's a nice comment here from Carol who says, nice to see you in person. We've performed your Leaves in the River
oh, great.
in our lifelong learning concert in Wisconsin.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, send me a recording if you've got one.
It's always good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's great. Let's wrap this part up and we will go to Act 3, or whatever number it is as we're coming up. We'll play the video again of Emily playing your beautiful piece, Fanfare Returning. Before she actually starts playing, though, we'll have some tuning notes that are going to be given to us, so you can get out your recorders and see if you can tune along with those notes and be ready to play and be in perfect harmony with Emily as she plays this again. In the lower right-hand corner of your screen, you'll see James Chaudroir conducting, which can help you find the downbeat. I thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful time, and we'll see you at the workshops this summer.
Let's begin by tuning an A. Play an A in any octave on your instrument. Listen and match the pitch. Feel free to take a breath and restart the note as you wish. Here's an A. Okay, now let's tune an E. Again, play an E in any octave on your instrument. Now let's tune the first note of our piece, the first chord. Find your first note, and we'll build it in this order. We'll start with the altos, add the sopranos, and then the tenors, and then lastly we'll add the bass. Again, the order is alto, then soprano, then tenor, then bass. Alto, soprano, tenor, bass. Now let's play that chord all together. Let's play the chord all together one more time. Ready? Here we go.